There's something else that I want to put here as a topic. When we are using external resources, and let's say we go through this uh, education of understanding that it makes sense to tap into a partner. It makes sense to say yes to remote teams. Uh, Now, you're gonna have a couple of choices, right? And one of those first choices is going to be, do I want basically a staff augmentation? So I want some external resources working for me, and I will direct them. I will tell them what to do from a technical standpoint, assuming that everything that is, HR related will be handled by the partner, but I still need to tell them what to do. Or do I go for a managed service where, I just give the direction and then I let the partner drive that for me, right? So
Yeah.
what is your take on that?
Um, I mean, for me, everything depends on the customer, right? It's what do they need? Both for me, both models are extremely valid, right? It's what works for that customer at that point in time. Because one client could take a managed service for one part of their delivery, they could take staff augmentation for another. You mean for me, if you look at managed services, are more outcome centric. Staff augmentation is clearly resource centric. So with an MSP, they're more responsible for delivering a design, I mean, that be that software development design, application design, platform design, KPIs, SLAs. They're responsible for delivering that outcome to a defined standard that's agreed within the contract. They're also responsible for line management, HR. It's their team staff. They're delivering a service as such. I mean, for staff augmentation, it's closer, depending on the delivery model, more to body shopping. So it's I mean, the SLA, the KPIs, they're defined by the client. The responsibility of the service provider as such is delivering the right resource at the right quality. Um, and again, where you're starting to now see some blurred lines is I've seen managed services that are nothing more than staff augmentation dressed up. So, I mean, what we're now seeing is doing a slightly blurred model where organizations are delivering staff augmentation, but with some degree of service around it. And that could just be limited, like we spoke about earlier, to HR and some of the softer sides where they're managing that element. And it's the client's responsibility to set the direction for that team.
Yeah. Yeah. So my experience working with both large and medium-sized company, it really depends on how much the internal team is capable of driving those resources, right? So if they know exactly what they need, if they know exactly what they are building, they will probably prefer a staff aug model because they will be able to just include those resources into their team and drive them as if they were, their own resources, right? Actually, they are becoming their own resources. It's just that they are on a different payroll.
Yeah.
Um, Now, if they are not sure, you're trying to build a house, but you don't know how to build a house, you better ask your partner to be accountable for building the house, right? So you might decide on, how many rooms, where to put the windows and stuff like that. But when it comes to building the house, if you have never done it, you probably should not try to do it by yourself, right? So this is typically what I see. The technical teams like to go with a staff aug model because they have more control. They can fine tune the direction of those resources. And then sometimes when they don't have time or when they don't know how, they like to go with a managed service like it's not my core business. I don't need to be an expert there. I don't have the experience. Do it for me.
I've also seen plenty of examples where you go from one to the other. So, you mean to touch on what you've just said is you start with a managed service, they put in the foundations, they put in best practice, they put in policies, process, procedure. And then that over a period of time, it gradually starts to transition more to an augmentation and staffing model rather than a managed service.
Yeah. So one other important question here is when you're hiring and you're hiring from a different part of the world,
Yeah.
you're gonna have a number of things to watch out, including what I would call the cultural fit, right? So this is something that is also important to talk about because very often this is perceived as something extremely negative, right? I will not be able to work with those people wherever they are in the world simply because they will have like German versus Spanish as an example. Okay, for sure, different culture. Are they capable of working together? Yes, they are. But of course, there's a different culture, and there's a little bit of um, let's say um, effort to be made to make sure that it works, right? So, what's your take on that?
Do you mean I've managed teams? Do you mean geographically dispersed for years? And I've always said, do you mean for me, if you look, I mean, culture eats strategy for breakfast, and it's really, really important. And I think this is why having a partner who can get to know their client, but also gets to know the candidates, making sure they're a good fit culturally is critically important. I mean, as I've been building out teams, we've all made mistakes and we've gone, I'm not sure this guy's going to fit, and we've been bitten by that. So having somebody who's got those capabilities and understands both client and candidate is really, really important. And that's harder to do if you're not experienced in offshoring. So just give me going on to hiring directly, this is where I typically see offshoring fail when people are just getting a single or there are multiple single resources offshore. Um, the other big thing, though, is I always say execution eats culture. So getting those right people culturally with the right skills and the right work ethic is just as important as well. So again, this is why working with a partner to deliver this resource is really, really important. And then having that ongoing support and help to drive those staff, it's always just going to maintain the levels of the success that clients demand.
Yeah, 100%. It's the same with everyone, right? If you have a team that is used to work with client remotely, with client from the same country remotely, they will learn. They will know what to expect. They will know, what culture they have in front of them. So it's actually both on the client side as well as on the partner side. And when the partner has resources that are used to work with a given country, let's say US, for example, right? So I'm French, and it took me, a few years to understand the American culture and to be able to work very well with American people. And
Yeah.
now when I go to the US, I feel very comfortable because I have that experience. It's the same with the resources that the partner will be providing to the client. If they are used to, it will be way easier for the client to work with them.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.